What these fishermen accidentally pulled from the deep sea was never meant to be seen by human eyes, and the moment they filmed it, everything changed. The creature wasn't just real, it was moving, but the terrifying part is what surfaced immediately after. Could this be the first real proof that something intelligent is living in the ocean's darkest depths? The storm had passed only an hour ago, and the small research boat rocked gently as the crew pulled up their last deep-sea trap. The metal winch groaned, ropes dripping with cold water as the cage rose from the dark waves. No one expected anything strange. They were tired, wet, and ready to go home. But when the trap broke through the surface, the men froze. Something heavy hung inside, wrapped in thick seaweed and long strands that looked almost like hair. The water ran off it in silver streams, and the shape beneath slowly came into view. One of the crew stepped closer, then stopped with a sharp breath. That's not a fish," he whispered. The sun hit the body, and the whole deck went silent. Pale gray skin, smooth but shiny like it came from far below, covered a shape that looked too close to human. Long dark strands clung to its shoulders. Its arms hung limp at its sides, and its fingers, thin, webbed, almost delicate, curled slightly every time a wave rocked the boat. The crew backed away fast, their boots thudding against the wet deck. They had seen strange things in the ocean before, but nothing that made their hearts beat this hard. The body looked like it had been hiding in the deep for a very long time. One man leaned in and touched its shoulder with a gloved hand. The skin was cold but soft, not rough like fish scales. Another man pointed at the chest. Look, it moved. At first they thought it was the boat rocking, but then they saw it again. A small rise, then a fall. Slow, weak, like something inside was trying to breathe. The men looked at each other with wide eyes. No one spoke. No one dared to. A sudden gust of wind blew across the deck and lifted the strands of hair away from the creature's face. Underneath, the skin glittered with tiny blue lights, as if the ocean had left stars on it. A faint shimmer ran from its jaw down to its ribs, like scales hidden under a thin layer of skin. For a moment, the boat felt too quiet. The ocean around them, usually full of waves and gulls, seemed to hold its breath. The air felt heavy, almost like it was watching them. One crew member whispered, "We should call someone." But another shook his head fast. "No, not yet. Look at it. We don't even know what this is." The creature's lower body slipped free of the seaweed, revealing a long shape that wasn't quite a tail but wasn't human legs either. Smooth skin stretched over powerful muscles that ran all the way down to a fin-like end. It looked built for deep, dark places where humans could never go. The engine hummed in the background, low and uneasy. Every man felt the same strange fear, the same thought burning in their heads. If this thing came up from the deep, rising from a place humans had never reached, then what pushed it up? And if this one made it to the surface, how many more were still down there, watching? The lab grew quiet as the crew gathered around the small screen. The memory card from the deep-sea camera was still wet, salt water dripping down its sides as they slid it into the player. The screen flickered, then showed the ocean floor almost 3,000 feet down. The light from the camera made a thin tunnel through the darkness, and tiny white specks floated past like snow. At first, everything looked normal. Rocks, sand, a few slow fish drifting near the bottom. The camera moved forward on its slow path, turning its light in wide circles. Then something slipped across the edge of the frame. It happened fast, like a shadow that didn't belong there. One of the men leaned closer to the screen. "Go back," he said. They rewound a few seconds. The shape came again. A long body, smooth and pale, moving with strong, soft strokes. Not a shark, not an eel. It had shoulders. The camera kept drifting forward, and the light hit the side of the shape. That was when the room went still. A face turned toward the camera. The eyes reflected the light like glass marbles in the dark. Hair floated around the head in slow waves. The skin glowed faint blue, as if the creature carried its own light deep under the water. A second shape glided into view behind it. Then a third. Their movements were slow at first, calm, almost curious. But the next moment, the footage shook. The camera jerked sideways. The light swung across the sea floor, and a hand, long, webbed, with thin, sharp tips at the ends, dragged across the lens. The screen filled with white and black static. The sound turned into a deep rumble. Something had grabbed the camera. The crew stared with wide eyes as the next frame came into view. The world spun in circles. The light flashed across glowing eyes and thin arms swimming fast around the device. The cables trembled as the camera twisted. Bubbles rushed past the lens. Somewhere far away in the footage, a loud crack echoed, like metal snapping under great force. Then everything went dark. The screen froze on the last image, the faint outline of a body, its hair floating upwards, its hand pressed against the camera glass. One of the men stepped back, shaking his head. "No animal moves like that," he whispered. Another man rubbed his arms as if trying to push away a cold feeling creeping up his skin. "They weren't scared," he said. "They were angry." Someone asked if they should send this to a research center. Someone else said they should delete it before anyone saw it. But the room already felt different, like the air had grown thick with secrets they were not ready for. The creatures in the video moved with purpose. They swam together. They searched together. And they reached for the camera like they knew exactly what they were touching. If more than one of these beings were down there, moving so close to the ocean floor, then what were they doing in the dark that no human had ever seen? The night dropped fast over the boat, turning the water into a wide black sheet that swallowed every bit of light. Most of the crew stayed on deck, too uneasy to sleep. The air felt strange, heavy in a way they couldn't explain. The boat rocked only a little, but every sound seemed sharper than normal. A rope creaked. A bucket rolled. Someone's boots tapped on the floor. Then a loud bang hit the bottom of the hull. The metal groaned deep below their feet, and every man froze. Another bang followed, harder this time, strong enough to make the deck shake for a second. One of the crew grabbed a flashlight and leaned over the railing. The beam shot across the black water, but nothing moved. The surface was flat and calm, almost too calm. A long scraping sound traveled up the side of the boat. Slow, careful. It sounded like claws dragging across metal. The hair on the back of their necks stood up as the scrape moved toward the storage tank where they kept the creature's body. A man ran to check it, his breath sharp and loud. When he reached the tank, he stopped so fast his boots skidded. The heavy lid, bolted shut earlier, was now cracked open. Salt water dripped over the edge. A thin trail of wet marks stretched across the deck, shining under the flashlight beam. The trail led straight to the railing and stopped there, drops falling into the dark water below. "It's gone," the man whispered. His voice shook. "Something took it." They rushed back to the edge of the boat. The flashlight hit the water again, and for a split second, they saw it. Two glowing pale eyes staring up from just under the surface. The eyes didn't blink. They didn't move. They only watched. Then they slipped back into the dark. A soft thump hit the hull again. Then another. And another. The sonar inside the cabin began to beep fast, showing shapes moving under the boat. Not one shape, not two. Many. They slid in circles around the vessel, fast and smooth. The pattern was tight and even, like the creatures were working together. The boat's engine choked and sputtered, then shut off. The deck lights flickered, dropping the boat into a dim orange glow. Someone whispered, "They're right under us," as if speaking too loud would make things worse. The sonar beeped faster and faster until it became one long, flat tone. The shapes below swam closer, their movements sharp and sure. Every man on deck could feel it, the water pressing in around them, the quiet pull of something old and angry moving in the deep. The ocean no longer felt empty. It felt crowded, full of watching eyes. The air tightened around their chests as the boat rocked gently, almost as if something below was pushing it on purpose. If these creatures were coming for what was taken from them, and if they already knew the boat's weakness, then what would they do next now that nothing stood between them and the crew? The shapes under the boat moved slower as the first gray light of morning touched the horizon. The sea, wild only hours before, now lay quiet and smooth. The engine coughed once, then whirred back to life, as if nothing had ever touched it. The deck lights brightened to their normal glow. The sonar went silent. It all happened so fast that the men stood still for a long moment, unsure if the danger had truly passed or if the ocean was only pretending. The strange calm felt almost heavier than the night itself. One man stepped to the railing and looked over the side. The water was empty. No glowing eyes, no swirling shapes, just the soft ripples made by their drifting boat. The trail of wet marks on the deck was already drying under the rising sun. The bolts on the tank lid lay scattered near the drain. Someone whispered, "They left," but the words didn't sound like a relief. They sounded like a warning. Before anyone could say more, a helicopter thumped in the distance. Within minutes, a group of officials in dark jackets boarded the boat, their faces hard and unreadable. They asked quick questions, writing notes fast, never looking surprised at anything the crew said. Then they ordered everyone below deck while they took the camera, the trap, the tools, even the broken cables. When the officials found the deep-sea footage, they placed it in a sealed black case and snapped it shut without a word. But one thing they never noticed. A young deckhand had already saved a copy. He kept it hidden in his coat pocket, pressing his hand over it every few minutes as if afraid it might slip out and disappear like the creature itself. By noon, the officials were gone. They left no papers, no warnings, not even instructions. Only a simple order. Forget what you saw. But they couldn't forget. Not the way the creature's skin shimmered under the sun, not the glowing eyes under the water, not the circles of shapes moving under their hull like a team that knew exactly how to trap them. Days later, back on shore, the crew sat together in silence as the deckhand played the saved footage on a small screen. The glowing eyes. The webbed hand sliding across the lens, the fast, sharp movements in the dark, the room filled with the same cold fear they had felt that night, the fear that something watched them from a world humans had never explored. No one spoke for a long time. Outside, the sound of waves washed against the dock, slow and steady. The deckhand finally whispered, "They were not alone down there." Another man nodded. "They came for it. They protected it." The crew looked out toward the endless blue water, the place that now felt deeper and darker than ever before. If these creatures guarded the deep with such power, if they moved as one and rose only when pushed, then what would happen the next time humans touched something that belonged to them?